Hebrews 13:17. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls, as those who will have to give an account. Let them do this with joy and not with groaning, for that would be of no advantage to you. Leaders in the church are responsible for shepherding souls, with an emphasis on accountability to God. Their leadership is spiritual, not coercive. Joni and Jimmy conflate personal authority with spiritual oversight, expecting blind submission.
You're wrong about Doug. You're wrong about your attitude towards your mom right now. And so the simple response, the simple answer is, we're sorry, and we submit, and we won't be any more problem.
Hebrews 13:17 assumes leaders who are accountable to Scripture and Christ, not acting out of self-interest or manipulation. 1 Thessalonians 5:12 and 13. We ask you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves. Paul calls for respect toward leaders who labor in the Lord's work, not towards those demanding submission for personal agendas.
Well, I mean, there will be a viewer comment the next time you are on about Doug. So you either submit and read it, or you leave.
Joni and Jimmy's demands are tied to organizational and personal control, not to laboring for spiritual growth of the community. The use of authority for coercion is inconsistent with biblical servant leadership. 1 Timothy 5:17. Let the elders who rule well be considered worthy of double honor, especially those who labor in preaching and teaching. Leaders who serve faithfully in teaching and pastoral care are to be respected. The passage emphasizes leaders who rule well, implying alignment with biblical principles, humility, and servanthood. Joni's authoritarianism and insistence on unquestioning loyalty lack biblical support for ruling well.
So I love you both, but this is going to end. You submit or you leave.
1 Peter 5:2 and 3. Shepherd the flock of God that is among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly, as God would have you, not for shameful gain, but eagerly, not domineering over those in your charge, but being examples to the flock. Peter outlines the character of godly leadership: humble, eager, and non-coercive. Joni and Jimmy's domineering style directly contradicts this passage. Their focus on submission for personal validation violates the principle of servant leadership.
Well, God wouldn't be pleased with this.
No, God's not pleased.
God's not pleased. And you've opened up yourself, both of you, to demonic activity in your family and with your kids.
Daystar is not a biblical church. It functions as a media network, not a church community. It lacks the structure of a biblical church, including elders and a shared commitment to spiritual accountability. From an article written by NPR, Kansas City in 2017, Can a television network be a church? The IRS says yes. The Internal Revenue Service considers Daystar something else, a church. Televangelists have a choice when they deal with the IRS. Some, like Pat Robertson and Billy Graham, register as religious organizations. They're exempt from most taxes, but still must file disclosure reports showing how they make and spend their money. Daystar and dozens of others call themselves churches, which enjoy the greatest protection and privacy of all nonprofit organizations in America. Churches avoid not only taxes, but any requirement to disclose their finances. And, as NPR has learned, for the past 5 years, churches have avoided virtually any scrutiny whatsoever from the federal government's tax authority.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Long for Truth. My name is Daniel Long, and sitting next to me is my lovely wife, Robin.
Hi, everyone.
Great to have Robin joining me talking about this Daystar scandal, because we've been discussing this thing on this channel for the past week or so, and we're going to continue that because some new information developed. Jonathan and Suzy put a video out just about, less than 24 hours ago. We're going to look at a couple of clips from that.
Right. And we're going to go back to the one video where you discussed the long discussion that Joni Lamb and Jimmy Evans had with Suzy and Jonathan. And we just want to point out how very manipulative that discussion was and some of the techniques that they use. As a matter of fact, Danny, really quickly before we even get started, I'm going to mention Michael Kruger wrote a book, Bully Pulpit. I'm going to show that to you. All about spiritual abuse within the church.
Yep.
And if you go through the first few chapters of that, you will notice a number of the methods used of a spiritual abuser are used in that discussion that Joni Lamb has with her son.
That book is so important in a situation like that. And if Suzy and Jonathan are actually watching this video, I would suggest absolutely getting that book because it really lays out exactly what spiritual abuse is and how it is taking place and how you can know when it is spiritual abuse, how you can identify it.
Absolutely. So one of the things we want to talk about is how Joni elevates herself and is elevated by Jimmy to this equivalence of being a divine authority.
Yeah, this is just a black hole that every word, every conversation is going to get sucked into the black hole, and it's just going to keep feeding this until you submit. And submission means she's the voice of God to you. Now, I pastored for 30 years in Amarillo. And I had a wonderful relationship with all the elders. And I said,
I'm sorry, can you clarify? You said she's the voice of God to me?
She's the voice of God
so
to you.
God's voice is
So I have to hear, I can hear from God, I have to hear from her?
Outside of Daystar. What she says is God in Daystar. This is the voice of God in Daystar now.
But what accountability does she have if she's off?
Well, she has a husband. She has a board.
I'm on the board.
Yeah, but you're not, individually, you're not her accountability. Individually, you're her employee. And I'm saying,
I mean,
wait a minute, Jonathan.
I have accountability.
She's the voice of God in Daystar.
No, there's no other accountability at
So Romans 13
Daystar.
tells us to submit to authority, all authority, because it's established by God, and it's the minister.
No, but I'm saying
even civil authority.
But who is her accountability at Daystar?
But that's not your concern. Your concern is to do what she says, and if you can't be here.
No, it is my concern.
No, Jonathan, you keep arguing with everything. You got to stop.
I'm not arguing.
You're arguing with everything. You've got to stop. And you've got to accept the fact that's the boss. You've got to do what she says. And if you can't, you got to leave. And not everything's going to be a conversation. When you're under authority and the general says, go over there, then you walk over there. You don't have to have a conversation. She's the general.
All right. So I was talking to Robin this morning, and I told her that I went through this entire audio and just picked out. Yeah, I went into the transcript and just typed Command F up top and put in the word submit. And the word submit, minus what was in the comments, they said the word submit probably around 90 times in that hour and a half conversation.
That's one per minute, one time per minute.
It's unbelievable.
Over us is an error. We have the right to appeal to the authority in humility. If the authority decides to continue with the choice they have made, then we have two options. We remove ourselves from that authority, or we submit to that authority. When we submit to authority, even if we don't fully agree with them, we protect ourselves and allow God to bless us.
Because I didn't do anything in secret. I did nothing in secret. I want it out there.
I think you should submit or leave. I think
Submit or leave.
Submit or leave.
Okay, so let's define
I
that.
respect you if you just say, you know something, I can't submit, and we're going to go over here and do this. I respect that. If she did something, and she obviously has done something you disagree with, walk in the door and say, can I submit something? Sure. I think this and this and this. Great. Well, let me pray about it. And she comes back and says, you know something, I don't agree. You submit or you leave.
So I love you both, but this is going to end. You submit or you leave.
I'm submitting that it's going to help to have open conversations instead of just letting things build up.
Once you're submitted, it will. Until you're submitted, nothing. This is just a black hole that every word, every conversation is going to get sucked into the black hole, and it's just going to keep feeding this until you submit. And submission means She's the voice of God to you.
Let him say it.
Listen, Jonathan, I've had a lot of people work for me over the years, and I know immediately when someone's submitted and when they're not, just by their spirit. What I'm telling you is, if you don't believe that, you can't stay. She won't let you. If you do believe that and you submit to her with a right spirit, it's fine. All this can be repaired. Nothing has helped to this point right here, and nothing's going to help until you submit. Now, again, this is not a discussion to get at a different point. You're not going to change me, and you're not going to change her from the outcome of you submit or you leave.
We talk about all these things. So read a viewer comment about Doug that was positive. They would not submit. Well, I mean, there will be a viewer comment the next time y'all are on about Doug. So you either submit and read it, or
you're not being a good leader here, you're not being a good leader at home. Because what Suzy needs right now is the encouragement to submit, not the encouragement to keep praying.
I've felt uncomfortable on the show. I've been trying to process my own way.
It'll be your decision. You'll either submit or you'll leave.
That you have to root it out. You have to get it out. And so the simplest answer is for you guys from your heart just to say, we submit. We'll do whatever you say. See, submission is only a word because disagreement's a word. If there was no disagreement, you wouldn't have to submit. We just all agree. You're wrong about Doug. You're wrong about your attitude towards your mom right now. And so the simple response, the simple answer is, we're sorry, and we submit, and we won't be any more problem. You submit, or you leave.
You submit or you leave.
You submit, or you leave.
And this, remember, we also talked about that is a tactic of cults. That's what they do.
I'm going to say we are not saying that Daystar is a cult, but we are saying they have cult-like tendencies in some of their leadership styles. Number one, I would like to know who exactly is on the board.
Exactly.
I couldn't find that anywhere. I didn't look really hard, but I did search a few things and could not find anything on the board of Daystar. And if Joni is surrounding herself with yes men, then there's a problem because there isn't. She may say there's accountability, but there isn't really any accountability. Just like in a church, a pastor needs to have a group of elders that support him and hold him accountable. It's equally important in an organization that calls themselves a church and a business to have a group of people that truly do hold you accountable. And it doesn't look like that's happening.
No, because Joni is the voice of God. So the buck stops with Joni. That's the issue. And so we can't how in the world can we trust anything that Joni says when she tried to cover up the alleged abuse of her granddaughter?
Well, in keeping with that, Danny, I think our next clip we're talking about the investigation.
Yeah. So this is from the video that they put out less than 24 hours ago, Jonathan and Suzy. So take a look.
And a few days later, my father calls me and my brother-in-law into his office. He tells us that Pete has been cleared by this forensic examiner and that we need to submit and move forward.
Yeah, and all we ever knew in our lives, all we had ever done is obey and submit. We had never questioned.
Yeah.
And
so
even though I had big, strong doubts, I was angry. I'm not going to just lie and say that, I moved on. No, it was a big struggle. But the way that we were trained, God is our witness, Jonathan and I. You are going to be the future leaders. You have to take the lower road. You have to bring family unity. You have to do what it takes to be the bigger person. Go golf with him. You go have coffee. Apologize to her. Do whatever it takes to be friendly and loving. And that is the character of Christ. And we did it with all our hearts. We didn't perform. We weren't fake about it. We truly did it with all our hearts.
Yeah, it was very difficult, obviously, to move forward after that. Still, I had legitimate concerns, but at the end of the day, I trusted that my dad had actually gone through the process of clearing Pete with this examiner.
Yeah.
And we moved forward.
Okay, so Marcus calls Jonathan into the office, and Marcus says that Pete is cleared. And yet, if you remember from the Roy's report, Julie Roy's mentioned that Joni had come into the kitchen while Marcus and Jonathan and I don't know if Suzy was there, but had said that Pete was innocent, and that's because God spoke to her and told her that Pete was innocent.
So now Joni claims that Pete is innocent, and Marcus is telling his children that it was investigated and Pete was innocent. But there's a little bit more to the story, isn't there? So let's listen.
The board eventually gets to the point where they force me to sign an NDA to be able to stay in my position as vice president and on the board. And that's what you heard the clip of that was posted on YouTube. And I said no. Knowing what I know, I cannot sign an NDA. There had been so much spiritual abuse that we've gone through. There had been obviously questionable things going on with my daughter. But I said, no, I'm not going to sign the NDA.
And that was November 16th was that board meeting. And this is the crazy part. It was 2 days after Jonathan said no to the NDA. 2 days after, November 18th, we get the call, find out it was a cover-up. The people who supposedly did this investigation, both of them said, nope, it was shut down. We did no investigation. That sends me honestly spiraling. I couldn't believe that level of deception and trauma. I mean, I had seen lies throughout, but this level, it was too much for my heart to even bear. I hit a downward spiral. I really did. And at that point, we knew we need to take action. So the best path of action forward was first find a counselor for our child. We went, found a counselor, told the counselor called CPS called the cops, and the detective called me back, reopened the case.
Okay, from Suzy there, Robin, it sounds like that there was no genuine investigation. Right.
So the whole thing's a mess. And we would like to say that, number one, we've gotten tons of comments from you, and thank you so much for sharing your opinion. There's so many different opinions on this ongoing saga. We are not in a position to say that Jonathan and Suzy are total victims in this. We don't know enough about them. We are saying that child is totally a victim of whatever's going on, and that we are focusing primarily on the leadership at Daystar and how this whole situation is being handled. Yeah. And the more you watch and the more you hear of the audios, the more it sounds like they are really bullies to the nth degree, Danny, using all kinds of cult-like techniques.
Tactics, yeah, big time. And I want to add to this too about Jonathan and Suzy. I cannot imagine them being the fear that they're experiencing right now, being hunted down by this Daystar Mafia. I mean, to constantly have to watch your back all the time, to have somebody put a tracker in your car. Yeah, that's definitely a level of Mafia-style intimidation.
It's unnerving.
Yes,
it is. To say the least.
So anyway, were you going to?
No, I was just going to go on to the next clip, Danny. Another tactic used in ungodly organizations, of course, is fearing divine judgment. So they try to instill in you, if you do this, you're going against God, and then who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, watch.
No, you were never the covering of Daystar. I was your covering at Daystar. And your dad would be so pleased. He wanted me to get married more than anyone. He told me 1,000,000 times, if anything ever happens to me.
But as far as
and he loved Doug too, as well.
But as far as your relationship,
I'm trying to figure
sorry,
out why you're so
Can I
stubborn.
finish?
No,
Jimmy?
No, I'm gonna talk.
I didn't get to respond to her.
Hang on a minute. Is that I keep trying to wonder why you're so stubborn and why you argue so much, and I'm wondering if maybe you feel like you're being loyal to your dad.
Okay, I was just responding to her. So basically,
Wait a minute. I don't know what I just
You
said.
being loyal to your dad or God?
I'm asking you why you're being so stubborn.
I'm loyal to God.
What'd you say?
I'm loyal to God above all. Like,
Loyal to God. Okay.
Well, God wouldn't be pleased with this. at
No,
all.
God's not
God's
pleased.
not pleased. And you've opened up yourself, both of you, to demonic activity in your family and with your kids by your rebellion against me.
I don't see it as rebellion.
It's not rebellion.
It
We're
is
just-
rebellion.
No, you're
and
rebellion.
and
Submitted
it
in
will,
every way.
It will be recognized. I mean, you'll bring a curse upon you and your kids.
You guys keep trying to teach us, and you're just not going to.
You guys keep trying to teach us, and you're just not going to. I was telling Robin this morning, I was reading John chapter 9 with the the man born blind, and when Jesus healed him, and he was schooling the Pharisees. He says, "Oh wait, you're asking me again. What do you want to be his teachers too? Oh, you're his teacher. We know this man's a sinner." He says, "Whether he's a sinner or not." He says, I don't know, but this I know, I was once blind, but now I see. And they said, "You trying to school us? You were steeped in sin. How dare you?" And they kicked him out of the synagogue. That was the first thing that popped into my mind when Jimmy Evans said that. Jimmy is just trying to be a bully. I was telling Robin.
Very much so.
Yeah, I'm
very
not
much so. Not allowing Jonathan to complete a sentence there. And literally, I keep thinking she is Jonathan's mother. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine. So his mother is telling him that he is opening their family up to witchcraft and curses. Abuse. And demonic activity. That's all.
Spiritual abuse right there. That is a perfect example of spiritual bullying, spiritual abuse, whatever you want to call it. This whole thing, and this is one of the things that I've been trying to focus on in the videos that I've done in the beginning, is just the amount of manipulation, control, tactics, all of that stuff. And
all starting with disagreeing. You disagreeing with me is rebellion, is witchcraft and demonic activity. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It really is. And
so bad.
Yeah, as if they're not allowed to have opinions or something. So
right.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is.
So Danny, we wanted to move on and talk a little bit about the use of gaslighting.
Mm-hmm, because that is going now, and that's the thing. I mean, this stuff just like you can hear this from the get-go. That's all Jimmy Evans and Joni Lamb are doing to Jonathan and Suzy is they're it's gaslighting. This entire conversation you can hear all over.
Yeah. So let's listen.
But if there's something that passes a personal...
I can't have a but. Dr. Phil says if there's a but in the sentence, you disqualify everything that you said before. All I need here is that you'll submit to me.
I would just ask that you would respect the personal conviction that I have, and...
That's not a personal conviction. I'm not asking.
It's a personal conviction related to her marriage. It's not a personal conviction about where she gets her nails done.
I've been very respectful. I haven't.
No, he hasn't.
No, you have not.
You have not been respectful.
No, I mean
you have been disrespectful. You've been rude, and you've been condescending. You've been prideful. You've been arrogant.
No, I haven't.
You've been unteachable. You've been stubborn. You've been all of those adjectives.
I've been very patient and calm.
Jonathan, you have not been very patient. I'm just saying, I would just say, just cutting to the chase, it's not going to work. And you have been given the opportunity to say, I submit and stay, and you won't. That's what you just said.
No, I didn't say I won't. I'm just saying I need to pray about it.
No, you're saying you won't.
Okay, that's the first clip on gaslighting. We have 3 clips because, like I said, gaslighting is throughout this entire conversation.
I've probably heard that clip 4 or 5 times, and every time I hear it, I'm wide-eyed in awe at what Jimmy Evans and Jonathan's mother are saying. Danny, this reminds me, I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of Leah Remini's series on Scientology, but watching all of this drama play out reminds me so much of what Scientologists do to people who start to question and start to have disagreements or just aren't walking in line. Every single time you disagree with authority, you are acting in rebellion, and they put you through that stringent process. Or like you said, start tracking. They try to do all of that.
Yeah, they try to make you and not just Scientology. Anyone doing this, they're trying to make you the bad guy. They're trying to make you feel like you've done something wrong when you've not done anything wrong.
Absolutely. And speaking of Scientology, this next clip sounds exactly like what a Scientologist would go through.
Julie didn't just hear our story and feel bad for us and start writing. We gave her hours and hours of worth of recordings and meetings. She went through so much. She has done due diligence.
It's a very extensive story. There's a lot to it. We gave her a lot of information. I gave her over 12 hours of recordings.
Yeah.
So from between getting all the other things off of her plate to the time she began getting into it and doing the investigation, it was from August through November. Julie, it's her due diligence to contact Daystar and my mother and the family members to get their side of the story. So she contacts them on Friday, November 15th. And I was subsequently fired the following day on a Saturday, November 16th. Now, throughout my time at Daystar, no employee has ever been fired on a weekend. We just don't do that. We fire people typically at the end of the day. A lot of times it's on a Friday. So there's proper exit procedures. So this was clearly a retaliation from me talking to the media. They wanted to fire me immediately after that. It's the day after Julie reports her story.
And how did they do it? Who showed up at our door? This is why we left our house.
We made that video earlier. Said we were going to go into an undisclosed location. We did. And, of course, Daystar security guard came to our front door in a bulletproof vest with a gun.
Weapons.
And posted my termination letter on the door.
And it's the same man who stuck the tracker in his car.
Yeah, so that's, again, the Daystar Mafia coming after us. And so we were at a safe location, thankfully. We didn't have to deal with him.
We saw it on the camera.
But we saw it.
All right, Robin, what's your thoughts?
I don't have a lot of good thoughts right now. Just amazing that they send a security guard to do that. To fear-mongering is such a big part of this whole thing, is just keep that person afraid. Really quickly before we go on, you mentioned we mentioned the Kruger book on spiritual abuse with Bully Pulpit. And I just wanted to read a few things. And even though he's talking about pastors, he's talking about spiritual leaders, which Joni claims to be.
There's a section that's really good.
Yeah, and this is one of the tactics abusive leaders employ to control those under them is through threats. Only the most extreme abuse cases involve overt, blatant threats to harm someone. But he goes on to mention, first, the pastor could fire the staff member, which they're threatening to do, right? NDA or fire. Second, they could bring up a person on charges of church discipline, which they said he was going through a disciplinary process.
Yep.
Pastors could threaten to ruin their reputation. And then Kruger says this. Here's the point. It's not normal for people to have this sort of fear of their pastor. And it's not normal what Suzy and Jonathan are having to go through in that position with their mother and Jimmy Evans lording spiritual authority over these two individuals.
That's exactly right. So again, great book. But Robin, you and I, years ago, we can sympathize. We really can, because we went through a very similar situation
Painfully
at our old
similar.
church.
Yeah.
Yes, at our old church. Yeah. But this is just the way that people that are trying to control, like cults. That's what this is. These are some of the tactics that they like to use. So we're going to continue on. This next clip is also very telling. Listen.
We're just here to talk
Wait a
about
minute.
now.
Don't correct me. Don't correct me.
I'm not correcting you. I'm trying to understand.
But Doug's an opportunistic predator, and so you begin
Didn't
at
say
this
that.
dark assumption, and everything else builds on that. Everything's a part of that narrative. And at the end of that, if it was a court of law, not any of that could be admitted as evidence because it was all circumstantial. I was listening for facts, I didn't hear any. And so what I believe about you guys is you started with some bad assumptions. Now, Suzy, you were excited in the beginning about the relationship. Okay, something changed you. I don't know if that was Rodney Howard Brown or what it was.
No.
But something changed you, and then you guys changed and all began to have this dark narrative related to Doug.
And they've talked to others.
So we could just pretty much just play this and not even give any commentary, and you'll hear for your, and you can just hear it for yourself. We don't even have to say anything. Don't correct me. Don't correct me. Don't correct me. You can see the level of bullying, the spiritual manipulation going on. This is going on for an hour and a half, and most of you, I'm guessing that most of you who have that are watching this have already watched the entire hour and a half conversation, the audio conversation there.
In that clip, Jimmy Evans mentions Rodney Howard Brown, and I would love to know what Rodney Howard Brown has to do with possibly changing Suzy's mind. So if you have any idea or you know what they're talking about, leave something in the comments or email us longfortruth1@gmail.com. The other thing I wanted to mention, he says that if this went to a court of law, it'd be thrown out because it's all circumstantial evidence. Well, you know that's not true. I mean, people have gone to prison for murder based on preponderance of circumstantial evidence that just points to something. So that was really weird.
All right, we
Incorrect.
have we have another clip here that we want to show you. Most of the clips that we've listened to, it's been mostly Jimmy Evans speaking, but I want you to hear what Joni says to Suzy and Jonathan in this next clip. Watch.
Babe, they're really scary. They think horrible things.
No. That's not
I
the
got
case.
you by the balls.
And other people
Who
see it. You
talks
see it in
like
your eyes
this?
right now, and you look at him like
Who
you gave him a
talks?
look.
I gave him a look of pity. Like I'm trying to. You're cornering him. This is so evil. What is happening?
No, what's evil
And
is
you're
you.
telling me that I've
What's
got him
evil
by the
is you and the
balls.
spirit
So-
that's driving you, and the things you've done, the things you
Horrible.
said, the things you've written, the people that you've talked to, the people who've told me things you said that are disgusting.
Like what?
That is what evil.
Like what?
You know, Suzy.
What? I don't.
You
Tell me.
know. Oh, please, don't even try it.
What are
okay?
this?
Just
What are?
don't.
Can you tell me what these things are?
No, I'm not, because you know what they are.
I have
I
no
don't.
idea.
Jimmy, you were there in the meeting with the children. You heard what all she said. You told me what
Tell
she
me
said.
some of the things.
We don't.
Well,
Why do we have to repeat what you said? You know what you said.
Suzy, the thing is,
Everything I
the
said
whole-
in good
the
conscience,
whole
so I don't know
conversation-
what's disgusting.
The whole conversation gets down to you're not submitted.
And you see there, ending with that phrase, you just need to submit. That's the entire point of this video, the tactics that these people use to try to control. And again, it's very much like a mob sort of situation, man.
Yes.
But one of the things that was really telling was when they were asking Robin,
For example?
yeah, Jimmy and Joni for examples. What did we say?
What
You
did I
know
say?
what you said. What did we say? Well, you know what you said.
Isn't that classic?
It really is.
Classic sign that they really didn't have anything.
Yeah, so this is, again, just classic spiritual abuse, the submitter else tactics of Daystar. And if any more developments and take place, we'll keep you posted on this. We'll try to keep you posted as much as possible. But I think we're going to move on from here because we have done enough videos, I think, on Daystar. But again, who knows? If anything else develops, we will try to keep you posted as early as we can on it. And again, we have not received a letter yet from the Daystar lawyers, and don't know if we will, but we'll also keep you posted if we receive a letter from them. So anyway, thank you, folks. Thanks for watching. Lord willing, we'll see you next week.
Bye.